Hello everyone, and welcome to this lecture. The topic today is the level of being, and we're going to explain this topic and how it relates to the development of the essence. First of all, we could say that we live in two worlds, the external world and the internal world. We know the external world very well. Here it is. All of these pictures represent scenes from the external world. In the external world, we have our lives, our possessions, our social life, our degrees, our properties, our families, our jobs, and so on. This is the life, the external world. This is the life that we live in more than the internal world. We put a lot of stock in how things are externally. We spend many hours figuring out how to make things better in the external world. And we look at the external world with complete fascination because this is the world in which our personality grew up in, and this is the world in which we interact and have so much interest, really. However, the internal world really determines how we behave in that external world. We call this the level of being. The internal world represents who we are and how we are, internally speaking. So, if we look at the example on the left, are we honest or are we dishonest? Is it okay to tell lies, or is it better to be honest, for example? On the example on the right, we have the chap there whose internal world is full of anger, is full of chaos at that moment. And you can see that there's an external reaction there which explains his internal state, which demonstrates his internal state. Let's look more closely at these two ideas. Here's the external world. We call this the horizontal path. It's the path that the personality lives on. It's life itself. If you notice, it comes to an end. And if I go to my pen, my marker here it comes to an end because it will come to death at a certain point. Then we have something which is a different type of path. The internal world. It's who we are. It's our level of being. For most people, this level of being is fixed, and we are born with the level of being, and we carry that level of being with us throughout our lives. We carry it throughout the horizontal path. The level of being, as we said, is who we are. However, it is possible to raise the level of being and change who we are. We have put a lot of stock in the external world, and we think that by developing ourselves in the external world, that life will somehow get better. And certainly, we go along lifetime and on generation after generation, and humans do develop in a technological manner. But if we look at in more detail at what's happening in society, we will see that the same events are still recurring. We still have wars, which we had thousands of years ago. We still have those ups and downs in the economy, rises and falls. There are still periods of prosperity and austerity, and so on. So it figures that although we develop, technologically speaking, and maybe externally speaking, in the horizontal path, from the point of view of our inventions, etc., who we are is still the same. You would have to reflect that if a person did develop on the horizontal path, then surely we would have learned by now that wars are not productive to humans. We would have learned many more things. We would have learned how to get rid of starvation or hunger or inequality in our society. But we haven't, because the external world, the horizontal path, is related to the path of the physical side only. In order for those things to change, something else must change, and that is the level of being. It is who we are. A society that is more generous, for example, or more responsive to its citizens' needs is a society that has a higher level of being than a society that would be more violent. Let's look more closely at the level of being. There are different internal levels in different human beings. For example, let's take an honest person. We might say that their level of being is up here. They do their best to be as honest as possible. Then you might take a dishonest person. Their level of being would be down here. Whatever the level of being, we say that the exterior is a reflection of the interior. In this way, the external life that the person has is because of the internal life that they express, that they enact. Let's have a look more closely. If we, for example, look at these times of the coronavirus, we could say that the level of being is evident among how people are acting. Those, for example, who have a higher level of being in this time of crisis, they're looking to help their fellow man. They are looking to volunteer. They're looking to put as much help out as possible. Here's a lovely example of a young man whose level of being enabled him to escape from adversity or to improve the situation. Born into a poor community, the windmill boy, as he was known, was very happy at school, but unfortunately had to leave school when the farm that he was living in failed and he had to come home and help on the farm. Now at this point he could have wallowed in self-pity and become very depressed and just helped with an unwilling attitude. But he found resources within himself to keep on studying, and he went to the library to rent a book about power and energy and enabled him to understand how to create a dynamo. And then he went to the different recycling plants and dump parks, picked up loads of spare parts such as the bicycle wheel that you see here, and created a windmill which generated electricity for his village. He's an example of a very resourceful young man, but his level of being was the key. He looked for solutions. He didn't dwell on the difficulties or on the problems. The level of being is also the way we explain the law of psychological affinities. Have you noticed that your friends, for example, tend to have the similar level of being to you? There is a saying for this: birds of a feather flock together. Those who are alike keep to their kind, as we see with the seagulls here. It's the same with the level of being. We tend to mix with the people with a similar level of being of ourselves. We're comfortable in that company. We wouldn't be comfortable with somebody, say, with a much lower level of being than ourselves. For real development to take place, it's our level of being that we must change. The external world that we live in will take care of itself, and in actual fact, when the level of being is changed, the external world will reflect that change as well, because clearly, by developing ourselves, we are improving our situation. We are getting rid of difficulties within ourselves that we see, problems that we might have, angers, reactions, envies, all of those kind of things are representative of a change in the level of being when we work upon them. How do we work to improve our level of being? The key lies in the present moment. The present moment is found here. Here is the line of life, time, and here we are carrying our level of being. If at that particular moment, not a second in the past nor a second in the future, we remember ourselves, we then have an opportunity to develop our level of being, to go up the vertical path. When we don't remember ourselves, we just simply carry on here because we don't have a connection with our level of being. But when we remember ourselves, we make that connection with our level of being, and we are able to see and change what it is we want to change about ourselves in those moments. For example, I remember myself going into the kitchen and finding a pile of dishes ready to do. In those moments, I felt a strong reaction. However, in the moment that I felt that, I realised to myself, how can this pile of dishes make me react? It's my own reaction here. I've created this reaction for myself. The dishes are the dishes. They can't do anything. It was myself that reacted to the dishes. And in that moment, in the present moment, instead of going along then with the reaction of having to do all the dishes that someone else hadn't done, I simply didn't react and carried on with the task. But for me, it was a great learning because it freed me. I was freed from that reaction of feeling annoyed at having to do the dishes. And this is the path that frees us from those habitual reactions that we have. It changes everything. It changes the internal world that we have. It makes it a better, freer place. Along with the change, we come to see the qualities then of the essence come out. This is the qualities such as creativity, finding solutions, looking intelligently to solve problems, and so on. The essence has marvelous capacities, and when we start exercising the essence in this manner, or starting to behave in this manner, where we don't go along the horizontal path with every single reaction, but we look to see how we can change those reactions, then life becomes very much more different for us. The capacities of the essence start to be felt. We start to change internally, and then the external world changes as well. Everything changes. Our perception of life changes. We start to see things that we didn't see before. We start to see how it is that our particular way of behaving, say, is useful or not useful. We start to see ways of doing things better. All of this happens with an increased level of being, because an increased level of being is an increased level of perception, an increased level of awareness, an increased level of consciousness. This path, this vertical path, is found in the here and now, as we said. It is a secret path, really secret because it is hidden. Humans like to try and change on the external world, on the horizontal path, but we know this only comes to a dead end. And if we had been able to change things, we would have done so already. The real way to change and to gain experience, genuine experience and knowledge, is to change within us in the present moment. The vertical and the horizontal path are well depicted in this painting here. This is the halls of Athens here, and we have Plato. Plato is clearly pointing to the vertical path. Plato advocated these ideas about the development of the consciousness. He was looking for humans to seek a way to get out of the small level of awareness in which they found themselves, to develop that higher level of perception. Then we have here Aristotle. Aristotle was advocating the development of the personality. And his views were that if we did something repeatedly enough, we would become excellent at it. This path here is the horizontal path, has not proven to be productive at all. However, those few people who find the vertical path are the ones that can make masterpieces of their lives. Here is another similar painting. This is John the Baptist, clearly pointing up to the vertical path. The path is, however, remember, is not found externally to us. It is found internally, secretly here, as he has with his two fingers pointed there. Here's our quote from the Oracle of Delphi from 1400 BC. I warn you, whosoever you are, O you who wish to probe the secrets of nature, if you do not find within yourself that which you seek, within yourself that which you seek, neither shall you be able to find it outside. If you ignore the excellencies of your own house, that means within you, how do you intend to find other excellencies? Within you is hidden the treasure of treasures. O man, know yourself, and you will know the universe and its gods. The treasure of treasures is our consciousness, is our essence, and it lies hidden within us. It's hidden because very few find that vertical path. But to find the vertical path means that it is a possibility of knowing ourselves, and then we'll know many of the secrets of nature, because as the level of being increases, knowledge increases, experience increases. We know more than we could ever think, ever hope possible, because this path, to go in this path, has a surprising result. The experiences that we get within us by going up the vertical path cannot be explained on a piece of paper. They have to be experienced. We just recap now how this fits into our 4 states of consciousness. Remember, at the introductory talk, we spoke about the 4 levels of consciousness, and this is connected here. The bottom level of consciousness, if you like, the lower levels of being, are represented by akasia, which is an instinctive form of behaviour. It's the world of brutal instincts. We see this among societies where the quickest way to get something is simply to kill somebody for it. Brutal actions that we would see, horrific crimes that we would see. This represents a level of consciousness which is in the instinctive region. The next level of consciousness is in the world of pistis. It's the world of beliefs and where the norms of going about something. Most of humanity lives in this level, in this state of consciousness. We live according to our beliefs. We never look to see if there is a better way within us, within our own norms of accepting how things are. This is the reason that we just believe that life is as it is, and that I think with time everything will get better. This is the reason why we don't feel the essence on a day-by-day basis, because we're smothered with the beliefs of how things are going to happen according to how we were brought up. So we think that if we get a job and we get promotion and we get money and so on, that things will get better. This is a strong belief that we have as a society. In the world of pistis, no one questions who we are, where we're going, why we're here. What is the purpose of our life? In the world of pistis, we're stuck firmly in the world as we see it as an unchanging feature. However, those who go up to dianoia, which is a revision of beliefs, start to question these beliefs. So they start to question, why am I here? What am I doing here? What is the purpose of my life? For myself, I remember working as a young woman as a teacher in London and finding that I was going on the bus to work, coming home every day, going on the bus and coming home, etc. And then I thought one day, is this all there is to life? There has to be more to life. Am I going to now just spend my life doing this and then retiring and dying? To me, it was a shock. And in those moments, I felt that I had to know myself, because in knowing myself, maybe I would find the answers. And then began my search for all of these kind of topics, for all of these kind of information. And the information and the topics that I was looking for, none of them led me to an external situation where things were better. There was no magical world outside or a magical house outside where I could go and live and everything would be better. The solutions lay within me. They lay within knowing oneself. They lay within examining who I was internally speaking. This is the state, when we start to investigate here, is the state of dianoia. It's a long process, because this state here will eventually lead us to self-remembrance. And as we get higher again to this fourth state, nous, this will lead us to the awakened consciousness, to that state where we know why we're here and we've uncovered the answers. The third step takes a long time because we have many beliefs to go through and we have much work to do. All of the work that we have to do is of a practical nature. Here, for example, we have, for Acacia and Pistis, the horizontal path. There is no real development of the consciousness here. But if we start looking into dianoia and the revision of beliefs, then we start to access the vertical path. Then there is development of the consciousness. Then we can find that our essence looks for solutions. It looks to see what its purpose in life is. Remember, all of this has to happen at the present moment, at that point where the horizontal and the vertical path meet. And we'll talk more about this in the next lecture. As we go up the vertical path and we improve our level of being, we come under other influences. This is a marvelous thing that happens. Change is initiated. When we change within, then we change without. But it has to happen from that manner. Change has to come from within first, and then we see it externally. Remember, we said that the external reflects the interior. And Hermes Trismegistus said, as within, so without. As we change within, so we change without, outside of ourselves. As we go up the vertical path, we have a different view of the horizontal path. We see things in a different manner. We maybe see them more in their place, or how they really are. We're not maybe overcome or subsumed by a situation, or overcome by a difficulty, as we previously may have been. Another feature of the vertical path is that we see events as a psychological gymnasium. They come along as an opportunity for us to learn. So if a situation arrives and it's quite difficult for us, at those moments, if we are within the present moment and we are within ourselves, we can see the kind of reactions that we typically take to those events, and we're in a position to study them and change them. This is the development that we're talking about. It's the development of how we are internally. Seeing how we are first in different circumstances, and then changing it. As we find ourselves working in this manner, situations will arrive to us precisely for this training, this psychological gymnasium training that we're talking about. Different situations will come precisely for us to learn what it is we have to learn. And here we find the answers to the bigger questions of life. Why am I here? Something has kept us on this physical world, something we have to learn. And that something that we have to learn is presented right in front of us in our daily lives, in the things that happen to us every day. The perfect place for us to learn for each of us is in our own lives and with our own psychology. Each of us has that school. It's different for all of us, and yet the technique is the one and the same. So now we come to the practice. Relax the body. You can use the YouTube video that we put up on the channel for this. It takes about 10 minutes or so. If you want to do a longer relaxation, do. Then put some music on and listen to it for 15 minutes. It is a practice of listening. Concentrate on your ears. Let the music come in. Keep your attention on that point. If your mind comes to distract you, bring it back. You can say to yourself, what am I doing? Am I listening or am I thinking? My purpose is to listen. Remember, we're trying to get to that point of the present moment. We're working to get to that point when whatever it is we're doing, we know that we're doing it. So this is an exercise where we're training the essence to live from moment to moment. We're training the essence to be in that moment listening. Also, keep working then to remember yourself during practical daily tasks during the day and when walking. Practical daily tasks could include things like sweeping, doing the dishes, peeling the potatoes, making tea, anything like that. But make it into the form of a practice. So, for example, if you're sweeping or hoovering, place yourself in the room. Ask yourself a question. Am I in the living room or am I in the kitchen? Am I at work or am I at home? Feel the hoover in your hand. Use that sense of touch to anchor you there. Carry out the action, carry out the task, but know that you're doing it. Perceive that you're doing it. See yourself doing it. Don't allow yourself to think about everything else when all you're meant to be doing is doing that particular task. Remember, our aim is to learn to live from moment to moment, to get to that point where whatever it is we're doing, we know that we're doing it. So if I'm eating, I know that I'm eating. If I'm drinking coffee, I know that I'm drinking coffee. I perceive it. Combining those two actions, those two aspects, the action, which is whatever it is we're doing, which is the impetus that the physical body has taken us to, and then the perception of whatever it is we're doing, perceiving that impetus, knowing what it is that we're doing when it is that we're doing it. We'll talk more about how to get to the vertical path in the next talk. I'll talk to you precisely about how to move up to the level of being. But that'll do for now. So if you have any feedback and questions, send them along to info@htsk.ie. Thank you.